Chief Executive John Lee has left Beijing for Hong Kong after meeting more officials. International Criminal Court issues arrest warrant for Russian leader. Joe Biden wants to tighten regulations on banks amid the latest banking crisis. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Chief Executive John Lee has left Beijing for Hong Kong after a meeting with Minister of Justice He Rong this morning. Lee said the trip has created a more effective communication and collaboration between the SAR and the central government. Mimo Sangai has our top story.
On the last day of his Beijing trip, Chief Executive John Lee arrived at a hotel this morning to meet with Minister of Justice He Rong. Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Eric Dunn joined the meeting. He said she is looking forward to working with the SAR in matters related to the rule of law, such as providing high-quality legal service and protection for the development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area. The Hong Kong leader expressed his gratitude to the minister for supporting the city, despite the fact that the mainland uses a different legal system from Hong Kong's common law system. Lee added the Hong Kong government will continue to make the best use of Hong Kong's common law and international collections to consolidate the city's position as a legal and dispute resolution center in the Asian Pacific region. When concluding his trip, Lee said he visited a total of 8 ministers and 11 central ministries and institutions, which will lead to future collaboration opportunities. Mimo Sangai, TVB News.
The status of Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office in Beijing has recently been elevated and will report to the Communist Party's Central Committee. Starry Lee, the city's newly elected National People's Congress Standing Committee member, says the restructuring shows that affairs of the two SARs are of high importance to the nation. In a restructuring announced earlier this week, the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office has been elevated and will report directly to the Communist Party's Central Committee instead of the State Council. Starry Lee, Hong Kong's new sole delegate to the National People's Congress Standing Committee, thinks it's normal for a new government term to restructure.
We all understand that structure cannot remain the same forever, right? It should be reviewed from period to period. When you look at the whole picture of the government structure review, not only the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, actually it includes the financial affair related committee and bureau, and also the technology, and also the data, big data related issue. Therefore, all these are important issues that I believe central government would like to have improved its management.
She also agrees with Chief Executive John Lee's decision to visit various central government units in Beijing, as it will help strengthen future cooperation. Lee says as a standing committee member, she will take on a more proactive role to work with the SAR government. The 48-year-old also has a lot on her plate. She's the chairman of Letchgo's House Committee, a district councillor, and chairwoman of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress for Hong Kong, or the DAB.
Well, DAB is just like every organization. We are also doing our own structure review. We would like to further strengthen our connection with different sectors of the community.
That as she was asked how she will split her schedules in between different posts. She said the DAB will have a change of term in June and she will make decisions after discussions with stakeholders. Chief Executive John Lee earlier said Hong Kong should legislate Article 23 as soon as possible. His comment is supported by Regina Ip, convener of the Executive Council today. Ip said the government should legislate for Article 23 as it is a constitutional responsibility, something Macau has already completed in 2009. The EXCO convener added she believes the Security Bureau is already making preparations. Overseas, the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for war crimes. The court is holding Putin personally responsible for the abductions of children from Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed the move, though in reality, neither Washington nor Moscow recognize the court's jurisdiction. Tracy Furness has more.
It is the first time the International Criminal Court, or ICC, has issued a warrant against a leader of one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council.
The International Criminal Court has issued 2 warrants of arrest in the Ukraine situation. For Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and for Maria Lvova-Belova, Commissioner of the Russian President for Children's Rights, for the alleged war crimes of deportation of children from Ukrainian occupied territories into the Russian Federation.
Lvova-Belova reacted with a sarcastic response. It is great that the international community has appreciated the work to help children of our country, she said. The warrant's practical implications could be limited, as the chances of Putin facing trial at the ICC are highly unlikely because Moscow does not recognize the court's jurisdiction or to extradite its nationals. Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia, like a number of states, does not recognize the jurisdiction of this court, and accordingly any decisions of this kind are null and void for the Russian Federation. President Joe Biden welcomed the ICC's move.
Could you give us your reaction to the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think it's justified, but the question is, it's not recognized internationally by us either. But I think it makes a very strong point. He's clearly committed war crimes.
Britain's Deputy Prime Minister said it was important the international community supported the court.
This is a historic moment in the conflict in Ukraine. The International Criminal Court, which operates independently, has issued an indictment for President Putin and the Children's Commissioner for appalling crimes against children. And whilst they operate independently, it's really important the international community support them and give them the tools to do the job.
Only 123 states recognize the ICC. According to Ukraine, more than 16,200 children have been deported to Russia. Ukraine has managed to bring back 308. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
In his visit to Russia next week, President Xi Jinping is expected to sign an agreement with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to usher in a new era of ties between the two countries. According to the Kremlin, the two leaders will sign a joint declaration on Chinese-Russian economic cooperation until 2030. On Monday, Xi and Putin will hold a one-on-one informal meeting and dinner before formal meetings the next day. According to Beijing's foreign ministry, the two leaders would also exchange views on bilateral relations and major international and regional issues. China has earlier proposed a 12-point peace plan to try and resolve the war between Russia and Ukraine, but the U.S. said a ceasefire would only benefit Russia.
You look at their 12-point so-called peace plan, it talks about a ceasefire.
Despite rescue efforts by top U.S. banks and the Swiss Central Bank for troubled lenders on both sides of the Atlantic, banking shares and major stock markets continue to be under pressure in Friday trading. U.S. President Joe Biden said the banking crisis has calmed down, but he is also looking to address problems in the banking system. This report from NBC News.
Tonight, President Biden intensifying pressure on bank executives who engage in mismanagement and excessive risk, calling on Congress to give regulators more power to reclaim bonuses and stock sale gains, make it tougher for banking executives to land other jobs in the industry, and expand regulators' ability to fine executives, writing no one is above the law. It comes after the president on Monday announced the government would make whole those who deposited money at the Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Banks, which collapsed.
Let me also assure you, we will not stop at this. We'll do whatever is needed.
But there is no guarantee a divided Congress will pass the president's proposals. Today on Capitol Hill, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying he does not see a need for new regulations.
It seems as though the regulators didn't do their job. I don't know that it needs new legislation.
And tonight, there is new scrutiny over the actions of former top executives at Silicon Valley Bank, some questioning the company bonuses that were paid out hours before the bank was seized by federal regulators. And there is sharp focus on former CEO Gregory Becker's role with groups that actively lobbied to lift regulations put in place after the 2008 banking crisis.
There is at least enough vitriol coming from members of both parties here after this collapse of Silicon Valley Bank to at least move forward with some scrutiny on the banking sector itself from Washington.
And tonight, the House Financial Services Committee has announced it will hold its first hearing into the failures of both Silicon Valley and Signature Bank later this month.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz touched down in Japan today with 6 of his ministers. He met Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for talks. The two leaders are expected to discuss bilateral security relations and growing challenges in the Indo-Pacific region. On the agenda also includes trade ties, the environment and the upcoming G7 summit, which will be hosted by Japan in May. The visit is Scholz's second to Japan as Chancellor. He previously visited Japan in April 2022. Still to come on tonight's news. More unrest in France as opposition to pension reform persists. Donald Trump is back on YouTube as well as Facebook. And West Kowloon welcomes opening of auction house. Welcome back to TVB News. Paris has seen a second night of riots over Emmanuel Macron's pension reform bill. There appeared to be more people on the street than on the previous night as anger swells following the government's decision to push the law through Parliament without a vote. David Garrett reports.
Emmanuel Macron is feeling the heat, but the French president is continuing with his plan to push the French pension age up from 62 to 64. Despite critics from all sides, including politicians, commentators and voters, he is not backing down. Several weeks of industrial action turned into protest marches, and now these groups are more angry after the government invoked Article 49(3) of the Constitution to push the bill through Parliament without a vote. This crowd in Paris cheer as a large cut-out figure of Macron is thrown onto a bonfire. Police have tried to break up crowds. Officers have been the focus of much of the rage over the last 24 hours with objects hurled at them. The demonstrations are leaving their mark on the capital. Rubbish has been piling up on the streets because of industrial action. This garbage dump was set on fire by rioters. Lawmakers who are siding with those who have taken to the streets have filed a no-confidence motion against Macron's government. This leader of the left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, praised the protests. It goes without saying that I encourage them, he said. He described it as spontaneous mobilisations taking place throughout the country. On the same programme, French government spokesperson Olivier Véran conceded the policy is not popular. We are perfectly aware of it, he admitted, but we are carrying out this reform. Protests took place in other cities too. Toulon and Bordeaux saw large numbers on the streets. More and potentially larger demonstrations are expected across France during the weekend. Extra police have been drafted in as the tense atmosphere in France continues. David Garrett, TVB News.
The United Kingdom is facing another weekend of industrial action with train services affected. Many tracks and stations were empty, with only about half of trains running as transport unions continue their dispute with the government over pay and conditions. There's already been one walkout this week and more railway disruption is planned in a fortnight. This comes as some security guards at Heathrow Airport say they'll strike over the Easter holidays. Air passengers will face what is being described as severe delays between March 31st and April 9th. Passport Office staff announced 5 weeks of walkouts, which will create a backlog of processing new documents. Alphabet-owned YouTube said it has lifted restrictions on former U.S. President Donald Trump's channel after a more than 2-year suspension following the deadly Capitol Hill riot on January 6, 2021. YouTube is the latest social media platform to reinstate Trump's account. Facebook and Instagram reopened his accounts earlier this year, while Twitter reinstated him when Elon Musk took over the company. Trump used his social media accounts during the 2016 election campaign with a combined total of 146 million followers. He now has access and reach again for his 2024 run for president. Back locally, the Asia headquarters of an international auction house has opened in the West Kowloon Cultural District. The West Kowloon Cultural District Authority says it will reserve more space for art development in the future. The facilities have also been upgraded and improved to accommodate the influx of tourists in the area. Veronica Lin reports.
Ever thought about bringing home some authentic pieces of art? Perhaps works by Japanese maestro Yayoi Kusama? It could become a reality, as the West Kowloon Cultural District now accommodates an art auction house, which occupies 6 floors in the West Kowloon District Authority Tower. Initially, 20th century contemporary artworks will be displayed on the ground and first floor. The works, including paintings and sculptures, will be up for auction. Phillips Auction House says the move to West Kowloon better serves art lovers in the city.
It is without question the most impressive hub for arts and culture, not just in Hong Kong, but across Asia as a whole. Actually, we welcome others to join us. You know, we have street level frontage, so people who are visiting the wider district will immediately be able to see what's going on inside our galleries from outside through our floor to ceiling glass windows. And that's something very exciting.
Betty Fung, CEO of the West Kowloon District Authority, said Phillips Auction House shows a lot of faith as they've agreed to rent so many floors of space. As tourists gradually return to Hong Kong, as many as 2.8 million have visited the M+ Museum. Bernard Chen, chairman of M+ Museum, says with the lifting of COVID restrictions, many tourists have now returned to Hong Kong. He said these next few weeks will be particularly busy, as some international art events will take place in the city. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
In just a week, 6 babies were found to have respiratory syncytial virus infection, also known as RSV infection, at Tuen Mun Hospital. 3 baby boys and 3 baby girls started presenting respiratory symptoms starting March the 9th at a special care baby unit in the hospital. The infants are aged between 11 days and 5 months. The youngest baby boy is in critical condition. RSV infection is more active in spring and summer months in Hong Kong. An expert says RSV is the most common cause of bronchitis and pneumonia for young children and can be dangerous. He urged parents to seek medical help for their children if they continue to display symptoms such as shortness of breath and fever. A Japanese grenade believed to be from the World War II period was found in Happy Valley today. Police received reports at around 10:30 this morning that a grenade was discovered by an expatriate man on Wong Nai Chung Road. The cylindrical grenade was around 7 by 12 centimeters and is believed to be Japanese. The police bomb disposal unit has dealt with the situation safely. Chalk on the sidewalk. This weekend, the Avenue of Stars brought together some 200 artists and teenagers to create a chalk artwork with an aim to promote inclusivity and diversity. Jacqueline was at the event.
On Saturday afternoon, the Victoria Harbourfront was taken over by this stunning medley of colors and young people. Joining forces to create this 60-meter-long chalk painting along the Avenue of Stars were more than 200 artists and students from various youth groups and schools. Co-organized by the Avenue of Stars Management Limited and the K11 Group, it also marked the longest outdoor chalk art ever made in Hong Kong. Some drawings were inspired by the works of legendary street artist Keith Haring. Others brought to life icons of Hong Kong like the neon lights and mahjong tiles, and their favorite cartoon characters.
I feel happy and excited that we get to draw in this chalk street art because I've never done this and it's a chance to let people see our beautiful art.
One artist behind the community art event told us how they came up with this idea.
Seldom you can see the chalk art event in Hong Kong. For the young ones, I would like to let them understand or to know about street art because we need the next generation to support the street art as well.
With just a piece of chalk, anyone of any age and any background can create art. But the artist behind this event told us, chalk art is not just about inclusivity, but also about community. While it doesn't take years of training to create art, it does take a community to make this artwork meaningful. Yay! Jackie Lin, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.